What's up, gang? If you're a SaaS founder or a senior leader in any technology business, one of the key ways you have to really drive growth is through the one-on-one meeting. But you got to take a lot of care to get it right and get it working with your team members and their direct reports. In this video, I'm actually going to step you through the process of how to host a really powerful one-on-one meeting that gets them inspired, drives their development, but also creates a bit of accountability in the business. Stick with me to the end because I'm going to share with you a simple template that we use and fill out for all of our one-on-one meetings. So let's start first with what is a one-on-one meeting. So a lot of people mistake this. They think that a one-on-one meeting is a status update meeting where you're hearing about how that person's going on projects. It's really not. It's actually their meeting. Sometimes you're meeting with the direct reports of your direct reports. So it's going down a couple of layers in the business to hear how things are going and connect with those individuals. For today, I'm just going to be talking about it with one-on-ones with your direct reports, but how you want to apply this, all the same principles and practices apply. So this meeting is about them. It's for them to be understanding how are they going. It's about them identifying challenges that they're working on and getting support from you to be more effective within their work. It's also a chance to be really making sure that the business is running and using the strategy effectively and achieving its goals effectively. Now, I'm going to be talking about the goal setting framework that we use called objectives and key results, or OKRs, but it doesn't really matter what sort of goal setting framework you use, the same principles will apply. So let's get into it. This is our one-on-one meeting blueprint, a document that we like to use for our one-on-ones and help drive a little bit of focus. So again, we talked about this being a number one thing, being the key priority for the individual. It's about how we're helping empower the individual and helping them be incredible and driving and inspiring action. So where do we start with that? Well, we've got to start with trust. That means that we're creating a safe environment to have a really good discussion and a situation where they can really put everything on the table, whether it's work or personal related. So we're starting with a foundation of trust. You're going to work into 3 modes here. So number 1 is how are they advocating for and evangelizing the strategy and their goals, or as I said before, OKRs. How are they really driving forward those key priorities in the business? It's not a status update. It's not about the things that they did last week, but how are they making sure that progress is being made? It's an opportunity for feedback. Now, this is a 2-way feedback street. It's not just for you to be giving them feedback. It's about them giving you feedback. That's really quite critical. Next is development. How is this being or enabling their professional development? So they're always improving and optimizing. Maybe it's working towards a specific plan that they've got. When we're talking about one-on-ones, there's a few reminders I like to carry fresh in my mind as I'm coming in. So number 1, the whole point of the meeting is to inspire action. A one-on-one that doesn't have any sort of action is a total waste of time. Yes, it can be good for trust building, but ultimately you want to see some sort of action coming off the back of it. As a leader, it's really important that you offer support, but not solutions. I'm going to talk about a bit more how you do that in a moment. Remember, it's not a status update. You want to bring empathy, and that is how you start to build trust. Make sure that you're listening actively, understanding their circumstances, and not being judgmental, being there to help and enable them. And finally, make sure you always track and follow up actions. Again, the template's going to help you do that, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, one-on-one principles. How do you make sure that your one-on-ones are really powerful? Well, you're going to want to follow these 6 principles. Number 1, connect on a personal level. Make sure that you're building that trust by working with them and engaging one-on-one. Now, you want to be very clear on what is the objective of the one-on-one. The objective is to help them improve over time, and that's by giving them confidence, giving them active feedback, and helping them develop on their capabilities. This is where it's all about improvement. Inspire accountability and action by being a mentor and coach. Now, there's a bit of a difference here. I like to bias towards being a coach. That's the one I always go with, because it's something where rather than giving direct advice, I'm helping them thinking through their decisions and what they're trying to achieve rather than giving them all the answers. Sometimes I need to actually give them actions and ideas on how to progress. So when you're being a coach, you're much more about giving questions that prompt their thinking and help them get clear on a path forward. A little quick structure I like to use is called POP. problem, options, plan. And so that's literally where they define the problem they're facing. They give me 3 options or 4 options around what different things can they do to actually progress and solve this problem. And the plan is, well, based out of those options, which one do they think is best and which one would they drive forward? Sometimes you need to give advice based on your experience. And that's what a mentor does. They're going to give you warnings or things to look at or things to do based on their experience. But you want to do that sparingly, because if you're solving your team members' problems all the time, you're doing their job for them. You want to be elevating them and making them incredible and enabling and building their muscle to solve problems. Now, remember, it's their meeting. They need to come in ready with topics they want to talk about. You probably should as well, but it is for them to own. But you got to remember, you're doing this as a service to them, right? This is not for them obliged to give you updates and those sort of things. So we want to make sure we're coming in from the mindset of we're serving them. You want to have a very clear agenda, but keep it flexible. And I'm going to talk about the agenda we like to use in a moment, but again, we never stick to it. It's always adapted based on the situation, but it's there as a reference, and it helps us make sure we're talking about the right things if we need a bit of structure. Finally, this is not a hard and fast rule, and I don't apply this to every one-on-one, but we want to have a bit of a balance. When we're talking to our team members, a small amount, maybe 10%, should be talking about the past in our one-on-ones. 20% is probably what's happening right now, and 70% is what's happening on the future. Now, I don't do that in every single conversation. If you follow these principles, you're going to find your one-on-ones are already going to be so much more impactful and effective. Here's the one-on-one agenda. So first, I like to have a bit of a check-in, keep it nice and simple, bit of a general catch-up on life. That's where you're building that trust and that meaningful connection. You're also going to get a bit of a sense for what's going on in their world, because sometimes there's things happening outside of work that's impacting their work. Once we've had a bit of a chat about their world, I like to start off with accountability. And that's literally going through what were some of the actions we had last time and if we close those off. Should be a pretty quick and rapid conversation. And if things aren't done, then the decision is get them done. Next, we want to get to the OKR review, or if you're just doing normal goals, then a goal review. But what we're looking at is, how is the goal progressing? So really, how is it tracking? Are they making progress? Not what's been done, but do they feel like they're making progress? How do they feel the goals are really going? Do they feel like they're actually struggling quite hard? Are they low confidence about it? Draw that out of them as a part of this. Now, that's part 1. Part 2 is how they're helping their teams be effective with their goals. You need to make sure that your direct report is working with their direct reports to really champion the goal achievement and progress on those goals, because that's how you're going to deliver on your strategy. And if every layer of the business is following this sort of behavior, you're not going to find you get those quarters where goals are missed or progress isn't made and it's all a bit of a surprise. Everyone is executing and moving in the same direction. Conflicts on priorities where people are getting pulled in many different directions, that gets bubbled up very quickly. So it's the job of my direct reports to make sure that is also happening with their direct reports, and so on and so forth. The next 2 I tend to alternate, and this is where it depends how much time we've got. If you actually have a weekly or fortnightly session with your team, then you might be able to find, if it's a 45-minute session, you can get through all of this. I like to make it fortnightly or bi-weekly type sessions. Now, the 2 topics we want to talk about and possibly alternate if it's only a half-hour session is going to be problem solving. What are the key challenges they're facing right now? What can we do to help? The other one is development plan. What are they trying to achieve and how are they trying to improve professionally? Now, this is a really big one that we get around accountability on goals. And so for OKRs, objectives and key results is what we use, but the same concepts apply. There's 3 questions I like to ask around how are they going with their goals. So number 1, it's around advocacy. Are they evangelizing their goals? How are they actually doing that? How could they do it better? So how are we getting the most out of the team and making sure that they're really advocating for the strategy execution in the business? Because that is what a leader's role is. It's about empowering their people to be effective at strategy execution. So if they're not doing that, then what the heck are they doing? The next thing I like to ask is, how confident are they about their goals being achieved? I talked earlier about how they're actively evangelizing the goals for the business, but then how are they actually coaching their team members on how to evangelize it? Rather than asking and telling your team, go work on the OKRs, it's a question of what strategies is that leader using to coach their team and really get them excited and empowered with their OKR execution. So at these 3 layers, you're going to find that number 1, you make sure that they're advocating for it and they're really driving forward on the OKRs, particularly for the OKRs in their team, which their team is their peers. So if this is an executive team member, let's say you're the CEO, you want to make sure that the company OKRs are being really advocated for by your direct reports. The next one is, Are they actually thinking those OKRs are going to be achieved? The next thing is, how are they making sure their direct reports are keeping successful goals? Now, you shouldn't really be wasting your time about how their teams are going with their OKRs. That should be reflected at the executive level. You should have other forums for that, but you want to make sure that the behavior is there to make sure those goals are being successful. Now, this is something that I like to use. It's a really simple format, and what you can't see but behind my head there is on the far right, we've got topics I want to discuss. Now, what's that all about? That is what I fill out before the meeting. I know it seems a bit weird because it's the far end, but I fill out what are the things I want to talk about because they're of the least importance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out the team member's name at the top. Every week I capture the date, and at the start of the session, I understand what do they want to discuss. I'll come in prepared with my list, but it doesn't matter. What's most important is what do they want to discuss? And then I've got space for each of these categories to talk about the key priorities based on wherever the conversation is to go. How do you get your hands on this? In the description below, I've got some links there straight to this template that you can access and use, and feel free to change it and tweak it and use it however you want with your team. But it's going to step you through this whole process. You can go and get that now for free. So there you have it, gang. If you want to have game-changing one-on-ones that not only get people developing and improving themselves, but it actually inspire action and drive your strategy, then share this structure with your teams and get everyone following the same sort of practices. You will find it's absolutely game-changing. Now, if I've whetted your appetite a little bit around objectives and key results and how you can get your teams ultra focused on what matters most right now with really clear measures, then check out this video that shows you step by step how to set incredible and meaningful goals with your teams. Have an amazing day.